Greetings from the afternoon in Ann Arbor. I know that we have people participating from all over the world, just as we do in the summer program. And I'm going to move quickly through some descriptive elements about this summer's program. And then, as Scott mentioned, we have plenty of time, we think, to answer questions that you could post in now I'm trying there, that you can post in the chat box. And this is just a quick summary of what we're going to cover today. I'm going to introduce you to the staff, talk a little bit about the history of the program, about the consortium itself, about why you might want to attend, something about our curriculum, how you go about registering, about fees, scholarships, and then briefly mention one additional training program. So this is a set of photographs of the staff. For those of you who have participated in the summer program before and recently, you would recognize Stephanie Carpenter, who is the program manager. Stephanie is actually on family leave currently with the new addition to her family. Edward Seeley has been the project manager of computing. Edward is still helping us, although he's taken on other responsibilities within the consortium. And so Sandy Zalmout has joined us recently as a technical assistant in the summer program. She comes to us from the School of Nursing with both administrative and technical background. The picture in the middle of the bottom row is Scott Campbell, who is our communications coordinator. Scott has been responsible for a lot of our advertising and communication campaigns, as well as keeping a record of the participation in each summer's program. And Corey Steiner joined us just about a year ago as an administrative assistant in the program. She's helped us with a variety of summer program activities, and she will have a particular responsibility for a new effort that we are working on to establish an alumni network among past participants in the summer program. As I go through the presentation and questions arise, we will direct them to the appropriate person if that seems indicated. So let me say something about the consortium itself. It's academic organization, membership-based, with about 750 academic institutions and research organizations that are members. It was started in the 1960s in the Center for Political Studies as a way to provide training in especially survey methods to political scientists who had been reading a book called The American Voter, and were learning about studies, survey-based studies of elections in the United States, but weren't familiar with survey data. Now, the organization is much larger. The archival holdings are the largest set of social science related data in the world. There are now several special purpose archives housed within the ICPSR. You can see some of them listed here. And part of our curriculum, as you'll see, involves a couple of sponsored workshops each summer that would give you information about how to work with specific data sets. As I said, the summer program began in 1963. This is the first class. You can see on the left in the front row, Warren Miller, who was the founder of the consortium. There are about 41 participants in this photograph. mostly faculty at this time, as I mentioned, political scientists who were interested in learning more about these surveys. Last summer, we had almost 1,100 participants in the summer program, and they came from all over the world. They weren't obviously solely from or primarily from American academic institutions. This is the class of 1967. You can see the growth, the immediate growth based upon this interest in those political surveys. I myself attended the summer program for the first time in 1966. This is a picture from a recent class of in-person attendees at the summer program. You can see that the steps of what is known as Angel Hall on the Michigan campus has provided a fairly consistent backdrop for these equivalents of class photos. Let me say just a little bit more about the summer program and about the curriculum. As I indicated, it's expanded far beyond the initial focus on survey data design and analysis. And we now have quite wide-ranging curriculum, ranging from introductory courses to workshops on the most advanced methods that would be useful to social scientists at various stages of their careers. We think we have a great cohort of instructors. They are the leading experts in their field, either substantively or methodologically or in a combined way. And when we organize the curriculum, we have arrangements for many opportunities to interact with the instructors and also the teaching assistants in the courses, not only through participation in lectures, but also in office hours. Depending on the particular course, there could also be group assignments and other opportunities for meeting with faculty and with the TAs where they're present in courses. So we think we have high quality instruction and a lot of attention devoted to the participants. An important part of the summer program is the possibility for networking, the way in which a participant can engage with members of an equivalent cohort in the summer in which they participate, but also how these relationships extend throughout a professional career. And because of the value of and the interest in these networking opportunities, as I mentioned briefly earlier, one of the things that we've been thinking about is the development and maintenance of an alumni network to encourage and foster these relationships throughout a person's career, and also to provide opportunities for this kind of interaction to take place outside of the schedule of the summer program at any time during the academic year. If you have questions about that, we will be able to have Corey answer some questions about this. As I mentioned, we had about 1,000 participants last summer, almost 1,100. And they came from more than 350 institutions from around the world, representing backgrounds in more than 40 disciplines. We have the participants have opportunities to meet and connect with other people from their own field, to be exposed to people from other fields and open up perspectives on the possibility for interdisciplinary work and the possibility it might entail. The summer program has been known for a long time as Stats Camp or Summer Camp for Social Scientists, or sometimes even it's been called Nerd Camp. It provides an opportunity to form professional relationships that will last throughout a person's career, as well as professional friendships and relationships that last for all their lives. We, under ordinary non-COVID circumstances, we often have or participate in booths at professional conferences, and former participants come up to us, or the staff who are present in these booths, to tell us that they still maintain contact with people that they met at the summer program decades earlier. Let me say something about our curriculum. I'm not sure if I shot by a slide here. Let me just check. I think I did. The first point is about how comprehensive our curriculum is. As I mentioned earlier, we have courses for research for people throughout their careers. We have, and this structure of the curriculum is designed to help people in different institutional settings who might have different interests and requirements. So, for example, we have introductory statistics courses that might be suitable for people who are currently resident at an institution which has limited methodological training in its own curriculum. We have advanced methods courses that are not taught at most universities. And so even though a person has significant basic training in data analysis and statistical methods, they might look to the consortium summer program for a short course in an advanced method. Sometimes we have faculty who come to the summer program because they have become involved in a collaborative project that involves working with a kind of data or presupposes a kind of analysis with which they don't have much prior exposure. And so they can come to the summer program to get some training in these cutting edge techniques for those who want to upgrade their skills. The introductory courses and some of the advanced methods are taught in a 4-week sequence, a workshop in Ann Arbor, and some of the more advanced methods are taught in a more condensed format as a short workshop. So we think of the Ann Arbor program as organized in 2 4-week sessions, which this summer will be from June 20th to July 15th in the first session, and July 18th to August 12th in the second session. That program consists of primarily 4-week workshops and a series of lecture presentations that extend from an introductory 1-night presentation to 2 weeks of lectures on a particular topic, and on occasion 4 weeks of lecture. Short workshops can take place anywhere from May through August. Under COVID, The workshops used to be 1 to 5 days in length. We've now tried to standardize this curriculum in the context of online instruction to meet for either 1 week or 2 weeks in length, with sessions that last 3 or 4 hours a day, instead of asking someone to sit in front of a computer screen with online instruction in a Zoom presentation for an entire 8-hour day. For the 2022 program, we are organizing it around a hybrid format. That is, we expect to have people, to welcome people to Ann Arbor to sit in class in person. But just as we did in the last 2 summers with online instruction, those presentations will be available synchronously online through Zoom, and then also be available asynchronously online. So in any particular course, we expect to have what you could think of as 3 cohorts of students: those who are sitting in the class, those who are participating in the class live, and those who will be looking at the recordings of the class at a, say, for example, a convenient time given their time zone. We use a system at Michigan called Canvas to organize and manage the courses, and every course will have its own Canvas site. That's where the lectures will be available in Zoom. I mentioned that some people will participate asynchronously and go to the Canvas site to find the lectures, but many students, even those who attend in person, find it useful to go back and review material in the recorded session as well. Because of our expectations about the continued presence of COVID, we are going to have a set of requirements that apply at the University of Michigan for in-person attendance. And we are going to require, if you want to register for in-person instruction, information about a completed set of vaccinations that we will figure out a way to check and confirm. The University of Michigan is requiring masks at all times in university buildings. That's the current standard, and we will expect participants to abide by that. Excuse me. And there is an app, a telephone app, that requires a daily check-in, given that you have satisfied the vaccination requirement, called Responsive Blue. Each day before you start class, you will have to check in and describe your current health status. We are also asking the remote locations where there could be short workshops to abide by these same requirements or restrictions. Let me say a few words about the curriculum in the 4-week sessions. The workshops form the core of our 4-week curriculum, with these additional lectures, as I mentioned, serving as supplements. Participants generally select 2 workshops as well as one or more lectures. And we will be limiting registration in the 2022 program to 3 workshops this summer. We allow a great deal of flexibility in signing up for courses and also for changing courses. So we have the equivalent of what we call at Michigan a drop add period that will go on till the end of the first week. We expect to have about 40 or more short workshops. They'll also involve hybrid instruction. They could be held in person in Ann Arbor, but they also could be held in these remote locations. As I indicated, mostly these are for students, faculty, and other researchers who want to learn a specific technique in a few days. We limit the class size in these typically to 25 or less. And the registration for a short workshop is on a per course basis, as opposed to signing up for a 4-week session, one or both 4-week sessions in the main program. Many evenings during the week, we have a lecture series named in honor of Tad Blalock, in which a variety of researchers and professionals make presentations. These include substantive presentations. They could include cutting edge techniques and methods. We've had a, excuse me, a recent thread in the Blalock Lectures that focus on topics related to race, ethnicity, gender, and diversity. And we also have some topics that are related to professionalization, including presentations about academic publishing, about the importance of transparency and describing methods, and also about the significance of replication. The registration for the summer program is going to open on February 14th. We have a piece of software that we use, CVET, that holds the registration materials. This is the link to it, and we'll be sending additional information about this kind of contact in subsequent emails. We have maintained the same fee structure that we've had for the last summer. And we make a distinction between participants from ICPSR member institutions who get a reduced fee, as opposed to those who are not from member institutions. And we also have a reduced fee for early sign up before May 1st, as opposed to after May 1st. And we provide information about whether you can tell if you are currently at an ICPSR member institution. We have a lot of administrative activity associated with populating the Canvas websites, getting everybody quasi-University of Michigan credentials. So we have to set a deadline prior to the start of each session for registration. So for the 4-week sessions, it's 1 week prior to the start of the session. For the short workshops, it's the Thursday before the Monday on which they would start. We have sponsored short workshops, these workshops that are related to specific data sets and how to use them. And typically the application deadline is 1 to 2 months before the start of that workshop. As I mentioned, there are incentives to register early, which are these discounts, and also the fact that in the short workshops, the seating is more limited than it is in the 4-week workshops. We have a variety of scholarships that are available and described on a scholarship page as part of the summer program website. They cover a variety of disciplinary areas. You'll find more information at that site. When we return to in-person training, obviously the participants will require some place to live, and we're trying to set up a set of arrangements to assist registered participants in finding a location. We're not quite ready to describe the full range of what those possibilities might be, although we are in contact with the university office that provides student residences on one of our campuses. The arrangements are a little different for people who take a short workshop of 1 or 2 weeks in length. But again, we'll be providing this information by email upon completion of registration. I want to mention that there is another summer program which is housed in the Survey Research Center at the Institute for Social Research. It's called the Summer Institute, and it focuses on, as I said, elements of survey data design, questionnaire construction, sampling, and so on. We think of this as instruction about how to produce reliable and valid data. We each of the 2 programs offer courses that are related to data stewardship, about the ethics of data collection, transparency, reproducibility, and the importance of metadata files to describe the genesis of the data. And the ICPSR summer program focuses primarily on the tools needed to analyze data, statistics, quantitative methods, and some qualitative methods, and elements of data analysis. So that concludes the presentation. This is a link to an FAQ that has some other information. As I said, the staff is here to answer questions. I'm going to turn to the chat and see what's going on. I see that Scott has been answering questions along the way. First question is, I live in Egypt, how can I join? We can give you contact information for Linda Dedeman, who deals with membership. She can talk to you about that. You do not have to be a member, though, to sign up to participate in the program. There's a fee differential. And if you live in Egypt, I would mention that there is a program that we have in conjunction with the American Political Science Association to support scholars from the MENA region. And I would suggest that you take a look at the APSA website. Scott, when we get these questions, we can see their email address?
Yeah, we'll be able to see it after.
Yeah, so we can, Al-Aldin, I think we can also send you some information that we have from the APSA after the seminar is over about where that information is available. Kimberly asked, what are the remote locations for 2022? We don't know exactly. I mean, I'm not trying to dodge answering this question, but I want to explain to you why I say we don't know exactly. Because we're in the process of having them agree to conduct the in-person classes according to these COVID-related conditions, requirements. The classes in the past have been held at North Carolina, at Houston, at Boulder, at Berkeley. I think we've held classes at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. So far, there's only one place that has indicated they can't do it, and that would be the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. But we're trying to confirm this with each of the locations. You help to get a visa. We have information that we can provide about how to get a visa, and we can put you in contact with the International Center at the University of Michigan. But we don't generate help with getting visas ourselves. Is there some additional information to provide about visas, Scott?
Yes, we have a page on our site. I'll put it in the chat that lists the visa type. It needs to be a B1 visa. That was a semi-recent change. And then we can also provide letters of invitation for people who need them. So I'll put the link to our site that has that information once I find the window. There it is.
And is that, would ordinarily that also be available on the ICPSR summer program website?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's another way to find it. But Scott will post a direct link. Faria asks, can we see the list of classes offered prior to the 14th of February? And the answer is yes. We hope to get that up in the next 2 weeks. And there's also a question about whether there are any prereqs for any of these courses. And what I would say about that is the summer program is a kind of umbrella organization that recruits the instructors to teach these courses in the curriculum that we think is important. But we don't set specific prerequisites. At the same time, if you go to the summer program website, you'll find a syllabus for each course. For example, starting with last summer's syllabus. We'll be adding a few new courses. We'll have to get new information about the syllabus. But we encourage you to review the syllabus to see what the expectations are of the instructor, whether there are any prereqs, for example, about programming skills, like you need to have a basic knowledge of R, or you need to have a prior course in regression. And then after you've done this review, you can ask us, you can send an email to the faculty to describe your background and to ask, which of 2 courses or 3 courses seems most appropriate. And then for the 4-week workshops, at the beginning of each session, we have a counseling day on the very first day of the 4-week period, and you'll be able to interact with faculty and to ask specific questions if there are doubts remaining. There's a question about the fees for the courses. I think that's contained in the presentation. I'm not going to go through that again, about the difference between member and non-member institutions and early and later registration. Somebody asked about a cost estimate or ballpark figure for 4-week housing costs. And I don't know if we have a current estimate for that, primarily because given the last 2 summers of online instruction, we haven't really engaged with the housing market in Ann Arbor. So we did have estimates, Scott, from 3 summers ago that we used or provided to participants.
Yes, that is also available on our site. We've got a page on lodging and visiting generally for Ann Arbor. And on that page includes some information about what types of housing you can look for, either like co-ops or non-university related housing, sublets like that. So I will put that in the chat as well.
We'll be updating this information systematically as we go along and obtain new information. One of the ambiguities the staff is facing is we don't know yet about the enrollment for this summer and what the division or partition of the enrollees will be between in-person people and those who come in remotely, one way or another. And the only significance of that is how many spaces it might be necessary to find, or how many participants will need to find a place to live. As I mentioned earlier, we're trying to make arrangements for low-cost housing through this university office, but we won't know until February, they tell us, about the availability. Only asked a question about, does institutional pricing count for alumni or only currently enrolled students? It counts only for people who are currently enrolled or a faculty member at a member institution. Debbie asks, how many students do you foresee admitting this year? What is the acceptance rate specifically for in-person? We don't have any enrollment targets. We have some limitations on individual courses, as I mentioned earlier. But essentially, we take everyone who applies. We can make adjustments, for example, if there's a large enrollment in a course, for example, by adding another TA. For the short workshops, we have this target of 25 as a max for enrollment, but we see how things go. We could be flexible about a person or two. We can't have a short workshop with an enrollment of 25 with 100 applicants. So there are some, excuse me, there are some limiting factors, but you don't have to worry about enrollment requirements. Does the program provide recommendations consultation? Yes, you can feel free to send an email to the staff describing your interest and your background, what you're thinking about taking, and we can provide some guidance. Another link from Scott. What is it you expect from us to join this program? Must I be a faculty member to join? The answer is no. You'll be able to see on the registration site what background would be appropriate, but we don't set any hard and fast requirements. One thing we're going to do is as we rethink our computing arrangements for this summer is we're going to ask every participant to bring a laptop. And we don't want this to be a defining issue for someone that eliminates them from attendance. We expect to have a loaner program for laptops for those who don't have one to bring. You'll see information about this at the registration site. So did that take me, Scott, or us to the bottom of the chat?
It did. We have a few questions in the Q&A box.
In the Q&A, right.
Yeah,
Okay,
Corey and
so
I have been going to try to answer those, but yeah, feel free to take any there that we haven't gotten to yet.
Okay, may you share some more about the funding opportunities available? Well, we have a number of scholarships in a number of areas, as I suggested in the slide about scholarships at the present in the presentation. You can also go to the website and read about the details of who should apply for a particular scholarship. But let me say that most of the scholarships involve a waiver of fees. If you are awarded a scholarship in a particular area, you won't have to pay a fee, or if you pay a fee at the time of registration, we have a way in which we can return the amount paid to you. So there's a question about, is there an option to teach a short course online only? And we don't have any plans for that currently. We'll have to see how we do with making arrangements with instructors. But part of the spirit of returning to online instruction is to get people onto campus, either in Ann Arbor at a remote location. You had something to add, Scott?
No, I was just marking it for our bookkeeping, that it was going to be answered live.
Okay. Stephanie has asked a question which I don't quite understand, so I'll ask you to clarify it. A colleague mentioned that there's been implementation science courses offered in the past, and I was wondering if this would be the same for this year. Perhaps I'm looking in the wrong place. Thank you. So if you could just provide a brief description of what an implementation science course is, I'll try to answer. As far as I remember, I heard that there are recommendations for either sessions or workshops. Whom can I send an email to? Corey is answering this question. We don't require recommendations to sign up for courses. We do require reference letters for scholarships, if that's a meaningful difference. Can you apply for more than one scholarship? The answer is yes. You can apply for as many scholarships for which you believe you are qualified. You can only be awarded one scholarship, but you can submit as many applications as you want. I believe that there is a scholarship. The question is, are there any scholarship sources of funding support specific to criminology students? And the answer is yes. You'll find that on the scholarship page. Is application required to submit an English language certificate? We don't require English language proficiency. This is not like a TOEFL score applying to graduate school. But all of the instruction is offered in English. So you should keep that in mind when you think about whether or not the summer program would be suitable for you. That is, you could take best advantage of it. I'm not sure, this is an interesting question, which I'm going to think about out loud. I'm not sure if we have a couple of recorded lectures that we make available on the website that a person who was concerned about their English language ability could take a look at, just for general comprehension purposes. We don't do that. We haven't done that in the past, have we? I wonder if that's a good idea. I mean, all of the Blalock lectures from last summer were recorded and are available on the summer program's YouTube channel. If you had a concern about English language facility, you could also take a look at the Blalock lectures, just kind of skip through them, both for comprehension of the presentation, but also each one has a Q&A session at the end of it. So you'll see some kind of give and take between an audience member and the presenter that you might find useful as well. So Scott has answered a question. For people who are interested in applying to scholarships, does registration for courses happen after the awarding or before?
That's the one I just answered, but it might be good for other people to hear too, because I answered it just to that.
Go ahead.
Ask her. So we no longer require you. We used to require people to sign up for courses as part of the scholarship application process. You will still need to indicate what courses you want to take if you were to receive a scholarship. That's just so that we can have more information about the applicants. If you're not awarded a scholarship, since we announced the awards after the early payment deadline, the discount, we'll honor that discount for anyone who applied for a scholarship and didn't receive one. I had something else I was going to say. Depending on your plans, you know, some people take a short workshop and a 4-week session. So you might want to be sure that you at least get on the list for the short workshop, since those do have a capacity limit, unlike the 4-week sessions. For short workshops are typically about 20 or 25 to a workshop. So depending on the popularity, you might want to kind of get in there, and then once you find out whether or not you got a scholarship, you can either drop it or keep it. But yeah, the timing of the scholarship and registration is not exact. There's some wiggle room in there.
Let me just add that most of the scholarships are for participation in a 4-week workshop. I mentioned that there were 2 kinds of short workshops. There were statistical short workshops and there were sponsored short workshops. The sponsored short workshops, which emphasize working with a particular kind of data or a particular data set in a particular substantive area, they often provide the equivalent of the fees. So there is no fee for being admitted to a sponsored workshop. So you should keep that in mind as well.
The trade-off there is that the sponsored short workshops are competitive. People do have to apply, and then the sponsor will review the applications and admit only so many seats. So that's the only time that you kind of have to apply to get into a course. Otherwise, it's open enrollment for every other course in the program. Other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you very much for coming. Please stay in touch. Late. It takes us a little while to process. Someone asked, when will the scholarship decisions be announced? Is there any incentives to apply closer to the opening of the applications? No, we don't. I guess I would answer this the following way. We don't have a rolling review of scholarships. That is, people who apply early have an advantage if they satisfy the requirements. We review all of the applications at one time, and usually we make a decision by mid to late April and announce the winners of the scholarships. Thanks for attending. You will be able to look at the recording if you want to refresh yourself about any of the elements of the summer program or the answers to any of the questions that were asked today. We look forward to seeing you this summer, one way or another, in person or online. And
Everybody who signed up, Scott, has the summer program email address.
Yes, well, they will, because we're going to send a follow-up email after this to everyone who registered with a link to the recording, and kind of I'll look through and see sort of commonly asked questions and include answers to those in that email as well.
So you should feel free to send us other questions that come to mind after the session finishes and so on. And the staff will answer your questions expeditiously. Thanks again. Good to see you all.